Hi, I'm Al Gonzalez with Roseville TV, and welcome to Driving Through Roseville. Roseville is so steeped in rich history and tradition. What do you know about your community of Roseville? I'm going to take you back in time to historic and amazing places and share some great stories about a little town named Junction and how it got its name of Roseville as we know it today. It's a story of a young mother and her young baby boy, Walter, who traveled all the way from Illinois. So let's meet our first guest, who will share the Fiddyment Ranch Restoration Project and take us on a visit to the ranch as well. Christina RICHTER, whose passion for the Fiddyment story started in 2005, is the president of the Roseville Historical Society. She is the author of Walk With Me, I Want to Tell You Something, the story of the Roseville Fiddyment family. It's a beautiful book. And with me is Christina RICHTER. Welcome.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you so much for being on our program. Now, I understand you took interest back in 2005 for the book.
I did. I found out through David what his family's legacy was, and I asked if I could write about it. And it took a good 7 years to put it all together with interviews and reading letters and understanding the history and researching it. But I felt like it was worth it. The product is an excellent product, and it's a true story.
Mm-hmm. So the book was made in part through and available through the Carnegie Museum, right?
That's correct. Carnegie Museum, the local Barnes & Noble, and Amazon, of course.
Okay, because I like our Roseville community to know where they can pick up the book, because it's just fabulous read.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you are the president of the Roseville Historical Society.
I am the president of the Roseville Historical Society, the proud president.
Exactly. And how did you start with the Roseville Museum, the Roseville Historical?
You know, I actually started because of researching the Fiddyment family, and I wanted to know more about Roseville and how David grew up and how his family was established here. And so that's when I walked through the doors, and the rest is history, as they say.
Right. So tell us, you did a lot of research about the Fiddyment family.
Yes.
Let's start with, tell us about Elizabeth Jane and her son Walter.
Elizabeth Jane Crawford Fiddyment Hill Atkinson. She is from an Irish immigrant family, and they settled in Illinois. She grew up, married a man by the name of Walter, and they had a baby by the name of Walter. Her husband was killed, and tragically so, and she had a decision to make. Was she going to stay in Illinois, or was she going to come to California to be with her sisters? And she decided, and as Dolly would say, it was a no-brainer, the decision. She came to California to be with her sisters, and she came with Walter, her baby. So a widow with a 2-year-old baby on her hip traveled to California. She established herself in the Walnut Grove area, as David explained, and she met a man by the name of George Hill. Of course, at that time in California, Al, the ratio was about 30-1, so she had her pick of men.
Oh, yeah.
And she picked a good one, and George was wonderful, and they ended up out in the Pleasant Grove district. The next tragedy of that woman's life is her second husband, George Hill, died in 1861, leaving her with 6 children. 6 children, 1861, in the middle of nowhere. But she persevered, she continued on, and she built a land empire, and her son Walter grew up, and they did it together.
Mm-hmm. I understand Walter was 12 years old when he started to take over the family?
That's correct.
business?
When her second husband died, Walter was 12, perhaps 13, and he became the ranch hand. He became her right-hand person in life at that point. Oh, and they were very close all through life, and he was successful, and so was she.
Wow, at 12 years old.
At 12 years old.
Amazing. I understand that Elizabeth Jane's had a schoolhouse.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Yes, I can. The schoolhouse was within eyeshot of the ranch, and she was the only one in her family who was educated, and she in turn wanted to educate her children and to ensure the children in the Pleasant Grove district were educated as well. So she donated an acre of her land, and it was on a hill. They called it Toad Hill School because of all of the toads around the school.
Toads, yeah.
And she became the first school teacher there, and Walter helped her with that endeavor as well. And that schoolhouse stood for decades, and Walter eventually taught Sunday school in that little schoolhouse. It's a park out in Sun City right now at Schoolhouse Park. Of course, the building is gone, but you can well imagine what it looked like.
Fabulous. I understand that she was the third highest taxpayer in Roseville?
When she died in 1906, Al, she was the third highest taxpayer in Placer County. So here's a woman who made it all on her own. There really wasn't any help with any other men in her life other than her son. And she bought and sold hundreds of thousands of acres of land. And she was very successful.
I understand that when she passed away, it was, if I remember correctly from the book, she had the largest procession?
She did. In Roseville, she had the largest procession to date to the cemetery and at the church. Of course, Roseville at the time didn't have a lot of people, but it was important. She had been an important part of Roseville in her life. She was a midwife. She was a caring mother. She was a caring friend. Anyone who knew Elizabeth Jane knew what a wonderful soul she was. But she was no fool. She ran her business, and she ran her business very well.
So tell us about, there's a restoration project.
Yes.
And I'd like to know more about that because I think our community would like to know as well, and how they can participate.
I'm glad you asked. So the Fiddyment Ranch still stands. Well, the property, of course, is still there, but the ranch house still stands. There are two outbuildings, the original 1879 outbuildings. The house has gone through several iterations, but it still has the initial cabin that they raised as part of it. So that house currently sits empty. It's owned by the city, and there was a preservation study that was done to see what it's going to take to preserve and protect this property. And I'd like them to go further. I want them to make a living history museum. I'm envisioning the blacksmith shop recreated. I'm envisioning the smokehouse being put into use again. I'm envisioning children going out there and understanding what it was like to live on the ranch with sheep and turkeys and cattle, and to roam the gardens and perhaps see their tree groves. I want people to experience this history because then they're going to love their community even more. Because our community really is a wonderful place. We came to be in a time and place like no other. And that's Roseville, and that's something that we need to be proud of.
I agree with you there. So people can contribute how?
People can contribute by going to our Facebook page. There's the Historic Fiddyment Property, Ranch Property Facebook page, and then of course the Carnegie Museum Roseville Facebook page. And if you like, you can email me at carnegie@surewest.net, and I can tell you how to get involved specifically with the Fiddyment Committee. And we're all forming a very nice committee to make our voices heard. So when the time comes, if there's fundraising involved, if there's decisions to be made, that we'll all have a voice that represents the community, because the community needs to understand this is a jewel that they don't want it to go. They really do not. They don't want it to go away.
I agree with that. It's wonderful. So also, if people want to get the book, what are the hours at the Carnegie Museum? Because I know that with the different time changes in the schedules,
yes,
that there are new hours.
There are new hours, and we are a volunteer organization.
Correct.
I have 2 part-time people, an archivist and a curator, and we make the best of our wonderful, wonderful volunteers. We're open Tuesday through Friday, noon to 4, and the first Saturday of the month is a day that we're open with the Roseville Telephone Museum, and we call that Historic Roseville Museum Day. First Saturday of the month, 10 to 2, and then third Saturday of the month, 10 to 2. We like to keep ourselves open on the weekends when we can, because families can more easily visit us at that time. But we have the book, and when we go to different community affairs, different community functions, we like to bring it with us, and people can get it then as well.
Fabulous. I can't thank you enough. It's a wonderful book. And how long did it take you to write and then produce the book?
So the research took, I would say, a good 5-6 years, and then me writing it, making sure everything was correct, was probably another 6 to 8 months, and then the production of it, of course, was the remainder of the time, 3 to 4 months. The local Barnes & Noble still carries it as well.
Fabulous. That's good to know here in Roseville.
Yes.
Fantastic. Anything else you want our audience to know about either the museum or the Fiddyment Restoration Project in conclusion? because I know that we're going to get, our viewers are going to write in, they're going to call.
Okay.
Hopefully they'll reach out to you
Yes.
at the museum. But anything else that you want to leave with them that they can say, you know, because I know that it's not just looking at the show, but they can also get involved. They can volunteer.
Yes.
There's a lot they can do.
Absolutely. The Carnegie Museum has been around since, well, the building itself was built in 1912.
Okay.
It's on the National Register of Historic Places. It's in historic Old Town Roseville.
Right.
And we opened it, the Roseville Historical Society opened it 1985. So we are the keepers of all things historic Roseville. And there are many, many volunteer and docent opportunities at the museum. But what I'd like to leave the audience with is, yes, we have this wonderful history museum. And it is a wonderful history museum. You should go, you should take your children. The next step is to have a living history museum that honors our pioneers, that honors our beginnings. And that's how I want people to get involved. Be involved with the museum and then get involved with the historic Fiddyment Ranch project.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
And for all of you at home, there's the call to action right there. Go visit the museum. Check in with us. Our contact information is at the bottom of the screen, our email and our phone number. I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us at Driving Through Roseville. Thank you for watching. It's been a pleasure. This is Driving Through Roseville.